And we are live. Hi and welcome everyone to this session on creating a critical path indicator with Microsoft Project. I have with me Rafael Santos. He's a PPM consultant with Sincea Project Solutions, and he's also a trainer with more than 10 years of experience. And what I personally like about his style of writing is very clear, very informative. If you have seen any of his blog posts, and if you have seen his previous tweets or communication, this session is inspired by one of his own blog posts, which was became very popular. So I'm very interested to see what he is planning to show us and present in this session. So Rafael, take it away.
Thank you, Prasanna, and welcome everyone to this session on the Project Virtual Conference. I am very excited and I am honored to be here with you guys today. So thank you, Prasanna, for the opportunity, and I would like to say a big thank you for all of you attending this session. I was just trying to show myself here so then people would be able to see me and to see who is going to speak with them. Now I will turn back to my presentation and let's get started with my presentation here. So today in this session of Project Virtual Conference, we are going to talk about creating a critical path indicator with Microsoft Project. As Prasanna has said, my name is Rafael Santos and I work for Sincea Project Solutions, and I will be your presenter for the next couple of minutes. So let's try to have some fun together. I hope also that you are having a great session so far. I myself have attended some of the sessions and it has been pretty amazing. So I had the awesome experience attending other sessions of Project Virtual Conference, and I hope that you guys can have some fun with my session too. Before we get started, I would like to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors for supporting this event, for supporting this conference. So let's put our hands together and say a big thank you for all of them that are making this happen. As Prasanna has said, I work for Sincea Project Solutions. Sincea is a Microsoft Gold partner in the project and portfolio management. Our goal is to help companies as well as individuals to achieve their greatest potential through the use of Microsoft platforms such as Microsoft's Project Server, Project Online, and also Project Desktop. Sincea was also nominated the Partner of the Year in the year 2014 for the project and portfolio management. So we bring a whole set of solutions, services, trainings and apps for all of our customers. And I work for Sincea for since the middle of this year, and it's a great pleasure to be here with you. I would like to talk a little bit about myself. My name is Rafael Santos. I am a principal consultant at Sincea. I have been working with all versions of Project Desktop and Project Server and Project Online. Not all versions of Project Desktop. Since the 2007 version, I have been working with the Project Desktop. I have worked also with Project Server and Project Online, doing implementations basically in South America. As you may notice by my accent, I am Brazilian and I am speaking to you right here from São Paulo in Brazil. And that's the beauty of this Project Virtual Conference, right? Because we can have people from all over the place, both attending and both presenting the conference, and that's really awesome. So I am speaking to you right here from São Paulo in Brazil, but I have also had the opportunity to work in Africa. So I had the experience of implementations in Africa. I lived for a while in Angola and also in the United States. Now working for Sincea, I am having the opportunity to work in projects in the United States. So I have been in many different countries, in many different continents, working with project server, and also project online. I am also a trainer. I have 10 years of experience in training users on how to use project server, and project online in a more easily and in a more efficient way. And that's when I began working with the project and project server tools. And I'm also a blogger for the Portuguese community. I have a personal blog in which I write articles and I share ideas for the Portuguese community of project management. I also started writing posts to MPUG sometimes some years ago, and also for Sincea. So you will find me in MPUG, or also if you go and visit senseaprojectsolutions.com, I have wrote some articles in there. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter, and also on our webpage and Facebook. So we are all over the place. Now that we are presented, I will go ahead and start effectively our presentation for today. Today we are going to talk about indicators. So the concepts behind using indicators in Microsoft Project. Also, we are going to move on to choosing the criteria when we are going to create indicators in Microsoft Project. And also, we will do a step-by-step creation of our critical path indicators. So we are going to not use too many slide decks in this PowerPoint presentation. We are going to put our hands on dirty and create this critical path indicator. And by the way, by the end of the presentation, I will share with you a slide that has the formula, and you can also contact me by email to get this formula if you want to. So let's talk a little bit about indicators. We, as project managers, we have to have the ability to easily identify and understand the variances that may harm our schedule in terms of cost, in terms of schedule, in terms of work. And to have this ability, Microsoft offers to project managers the ability to create custom fields. So we can create custom fields in order to identify what's going on with our schedule, in order to identify if we are having some problems or some unexpected tasks that are not performing as we were expecting. In this way, we can create a set of rules that will help us to in the identification of the tasks that are not performing as expected. And in this scenario, when we have this identification, when we have this easily identification of the tasks that are not performing as expected, we can take proactive actions in order to get back the schedule on track, right? The problem when we are going to build a new indicator for our schedule, and I would not say this is a problem, but the first big challenge is to choose the right criteria, right? As the custom field is there available for us to build whatever we want, we have to choose the right criteria in order to have the right identification of the tasks. One of the criteria that I have seen in many companies in which I have been participating in projects is the percent of variance rule. This percent of variance rule is pretty simple. It gives some layers, let's say, and if a task passes a particular percentage of variance, then we are going to show a stoplight or an indicator. So let's say, for example, that we can have a percent variance for finish dates that says that if the percent of variance is greater than 10%, for example, we are going to see the indicator in the red color. If the variance, or if the percent of variance of our schedule or of our tasks are between 1% or 10%, for example, we are going to see the yellow stoplight. And if we do not have any variance at all, or if the variance is less than 0%, which means that we are ahead on time, we would like to see the green indicator. That's the commonly used rule that I have seen in many different companies that I had the opportunity to work with. And I myself used this rule for a couple of years, but at the end of the day, I just realized that this rule is good, but sometimes it can give us the wrong directions for the which tasks that we should have a closer look to. And I will do a quick demo in the next slide in order to identify this issue. So I will switch back here to my Microsoft project. Here I do have a schedule with a couple of tasks that are assigned to a couple of resources. And let's do and create this indicator based on the rule that I just said. So I will click here on project and then custom fields. And in the custom fields, I will choose the number. So I will change the name of the number. Instead of using number 1, I will rename it and I will call it percent of, no, just percent finish variance, and I'll click OK. And then here I will click on formula, and then I will choose a function here. I will choose an if function. So when I am going to create a new custom field in Microsoft project, I always like to check first if I do have a baseline set for this particular project, because if we do not have any baseline at all, we are not going to be able to identify any variance. So first of all, I will just choose a field here, the date field, baseline finish date. So I'll go here to finish date, and then baseline finish, and I will say if my baseline finish date is equals to, and then I will choose a new function here. Sorry, let me go back here. I will choose a new function, which is a Microsoft project function, project date value expression. So I would say if my baseline finish date is equals to NA, and NA stands to not available. You may notice that when you do not set a baseline in Microsoft project, if you do not do it, the baseline finish date field will be stored with an NA value. So basically what I'm saying here is that if my baseline finish date is equals to the text NA, or if my field is a milestone, then I will have a zero calculation, or I mean, I will not have a calculation at all, because if my task is a milestone, or if my task does not have a baseline, I do not have to do any calculation at all, because my schedule do not have any variance. If not, I will just pick the field here, and it's a finish date and finish variance date, and I will divide it by the baseline duration, and I will multiply the result by 100 because I want to see the whole number. So basically, I will just bring this up, and basically what I'm saying here is if my baseline finish date is equals to NA, so the NA value is stored in my baseline finish information, or if my task is a milestone, I will not have any variance at all. If not, it has to give me an information on my finish variance divided by the baseline duration to see how much I am variance, how much is the variance in terms of percent for my schedule. So I will click OK on here. Then it's going to Oh, sorry for this noise. So I will just choose to use formula. Sorry for that, guys. And I will insert my field here. Oh, that's not so good. So field settings, then center. And at this point, I do not have any variance at all because I am in a place that I do not have set my finish date here for my baseline. So I will set my baseline and I will still have the number 0. But now let's say that I have this guy here, my infrastructure analyst, and he has this task, which is prepare infrastructure that's going to be going through the October, 13th of October until 19th of October. So let's say that this guy, this infrastructure analyst, as soon as I have set my baseline and I have committed the dates with all of my stakeholders, he comes to me and say that he is not going to be available in the October 14 and 15 because he's going to have a medical leave, for example. So I have to say this to my schedule. So I will go here to my resource sheet, and then I will take this infrastructure analyst, and then I will change his working time to say that in October 14 to October 15, he is going to have a medical leave, right? So I click OK, and I will go back to my schedule. So now I have a variance of 40%. And that's really bad because, as we said, if we have a variance that was over 10%, it should show the indicator in the red color, right? The problem is, if I look to this task and I look to my schedule here, to the finish date of my schedule, I do not have any variance at all to my project server deployment schedule. And the reason is why, because this particular task does not, it is not included, is not part of the critical path. So if I go here and click on format and then critical tasks, I am going to see that this particular task, if I zoom in, it's not in the critical path, right? So I can see that it is blue, and the fact that this task is not in the critical path is means that this particular task has a slack, and it means that it can be delayed for some time with not affecting my project finish date. So even though I have a 40% variance to the finish of this task, it's not affecting my schedule at all. If I click here and I move to and I insert a column saying, for example, total slack, I'm going to see that I have already a total slack of 11 days to this particular task. So it means that I can delay this task for 11 days without affecting my entire schedule. So if we look back to our previous slide, we will see that with 10% of variance in the task, we would have a red stoplight here. But sometimes that's not what we are looking to. What we are searching for. We are searching for a way to identify the tasks that, if with variance, have a direct effect on our schedule. And that's the reason, and that's the situation that we are discussing here, right? The ability to have this option to create a critical path indicator for the tasks. So I'll go back here to our demo, and I will move here. And the critical path rule is just a simple rule that we can use. When using the critical path rule, we can say that if the task has a variation, so it has a variance, and if the task is on the critical path, it's going to show us the red indicator. If we do have a variance on the task that is not in the critical path, so that the case that we saw previously, we have a variance on the task, but it's not on the critical path, then we are going to show the yellow stoplight. And if we do not have any variance at all, we can see that we can say that we are going to show the green stoplight. So let's go and do a demo over here again to this variance. So I will just change here screens. Let's go back to Microsoft Project. And let's say now that I am going to create a new custom field. So I will click here on Microsoft Project and then custom fields. And now we are going to do like a step-by-step to create this indicator. So first of all, we have to go and change here to the text. And I would like to say I'm sorry for all of this noise. This place in where I have in where is usually calm and quiet place. And for some reason, I don't know why there are so many firefighters in here. So I'm really sorry for that, for this noise. I'm really sorry for that. So I will move here to task, and I am creating this indicator for the critical path. So instead of using the number as we have used previously, I will change here for text. And I will use this text one, and I will rename this, and I will create this critical path indicator, right? Oops, critical path indicator. So I'll click OK, and then here I'm going to go to formulas. Okay, so the first thing that when I am creating a new indicator, as I said, is to verify if we do have baseline set for our schedule. So if we do not have any baseline at all, we do not have to have any indicator showing anything. So I will just choose function, and then I will go to general, and then if. And with this if function, as we saw previously, I will have first to verify if we do have a baseline set for our schedule. So I will use the date field, and it's going to be the baseline finish and baseline finish. And I would say if the baseline finish is equals to, and then the function on Microsoft Project push date value. And if the value is stored inside my baseline finish field is equals to NA, then we do not have any baseline at all. So previously we were working with numbers. Now I will work with text. So I will say that no baseline. If I do not have any baseline at all, so I will just give the answer to the user saying that we do not have any baseline. We have completed the first step. Now we have 3 more steps to work. We have now 3 available options or possibilities. We can have a task that is in the critical path and has a variance. That's one option. We can have a task that has a variance but is not in the critical path. So if this happens, as we saw previously, we should have the yellow indicator. And we can have a task that does not have any variance at all. So instead of using the false part here, as we used previously, I will just delete this false part, and I will just insert a new function, and I will insert a new if. And now we are going to go ahead and move ahead to the and move forward to the next expression. So instead of using expression, I would say if a task has a finish variance, so I have to pick here the date field finish variance. And I would say if the finish variance is greater than 0, and I will insert the end statement. It's in the critical path. So I do have a field here that is under the flag category that says critical. So if the finish variance is greater than 0 and this task is in the critical path, then I would like to say that I have a critical variance. Let's use this statement, critical variance. But you can use the state you want. Now we have only two available options. So I will not use the false part. I will just exclude the false part, and I will insert a new function. So general, and then the if statement again. And instead of using expression, I will just delete this. And now we have to see if the task has a finish variance but is not in the critical path. So I will click here on field again, and then I will select the date field and also the finish variance again. And I would say if the finish variance is greater than 0, which means the task has a variance, I can use the end function again to say this task is not in the critical path, but I really do not need to do it because basically in the first statement I said if a task has a variance and is in the critical path. At this time, I do not I do not have to say that the task is not in the critical path because the task has only two options. The task is on the critical path or is not. So I do not need to say if the finish variance is greater than 0 and also not in the critical path, right? So I will just say if the finish variance is greater than 0, then I would like to show the text that no critical variance. And if my task does not have any variance at all, I will just say that this task has no variance, right? So just for you guys to see how the critical path indicator formula was built, I will just zone in, and then we have here this uh, formula. As I said, I will share this formula with you by the end of the presentation, and also if you do have questions or comments, you can ask me for this formula, and I will be sharing this formula with you guys. So I will just click OK on here. So Microsoft project is going to say that the existing critical path indicator will be deleted, and it's going to use the formula that I have inserted. Let's see if my formula goes through. Oh yes, it's working. Now I will click here and use formula. So I will use formula because at the summary rows for this time, I would like to have the same statement. If I would like to have a different statement for the summary rows, I could just create a new formula or a different approach to this. Now I will click OK, and I will insert a new column here, which is my critical path indicator. And when I insert this critical path indicator here, this new column, I can see clearly that for this task, prepare infrastructure, in which the infrastructure analyst is not going to be available for 2 days in the week of in the days of 14 and 15 of October. I do have a finish variance for this task. This finish variance represents 40% over what was originally planned, but this is as this task is not in the critical path, I have a non-critical variance in here. And I can see, for example, in here that my schedule as a whole does not have any variance at all. My project as a schedule as a whole schedule does not have any variance at all. So now let's say that I do have a task in here, for example, this task here, install project server 2013. So let's say that I just had a call with my customer, and my customer said that in this day, not this task, let's go to configure project server, for example. So let's say that we are going to have a day in this task in which the PPM consultant, the resource that is responsible for conducting this task, configuring project server 2013, he is not going to be available in one day of this task because of a medical leave, or because he's committed with a different project, or he's going to a conference that he's not going to be available to uh, work in one particular day of the project. So let's say that on December the 1st, he's not going to be available. So I'm going to move here to my resource sheet. I will take the PPM consultant, and I will click here on changing work time. And I would say that in December the 1st, he's going to attend a conference, and he's not going to be available at this particular day, right? So I'll click here, OK. And then when I go back to my schedule, wow, I have a critical variance. And that's the point. So as we can see, I do have a finished variance for this particular task, for this uh, configure project server task. This finished variance that I have is just 6.67%. And if we look to the old criteria that we were using, for this particular variance, we would have a yellow indicator, right? Because it's not greater than 10%, and we said that if the variance was not greater than 10%, we would show the yellow indicator. And the problem is that even though it's 6.67% variance, it's not greater than 10%, it's this task is in the critical path, and this task is going to affect our entire schedule. So the project finish date will not be as planned anymore, and we are going to have a variance for our schedule, for our project. So that's the reason I would suggest you using the critical path indicators, the critical path indicator, because as soon as we do have any difference in our schedule or any problem in our schedule at all, it's going to show us this situation, and we can easily take decisions, and we easily can identify those problems. So I will go back here, click on project, and then click on custom fields. And then for this particular formula, I will change here to graphical indicators. And I would say that let's just remember that we are now talking about the critical path indicator. So I will click here on graphical indicators. And I would say that if the value in the critical path indicators is equals to no variance, it's going to show me the, let's say, the green stoplight, right? If the value is equals to no critical variance, then I would like to show the yellow stoplight. So it means my task has a variance. I have to be aware of this variance, but this variance is not going to affect, or is not affecting at this point, my schedule. And if the result of my formula is equals to critical variance, then I will use the red indicator. And I also have here a new option, another option, that is no baseline, right? I cannot forget that sometimes I just do not have a baseline at all to my schedule. So I will say that if I do not have any baseline at all, I will just show the gray icon. right? So for the summary roles, I will use the same criteria. As I said, you can use a different criteria for the summary roles if you want to. And I will also use a different criteria for the project summary. And I will select here that the project summary is also using the same criteria. I'll click yes, and then OK. And as soon as I hit OK in here, I will have my critical path indicator. So I will just change the field settings to say that I would like to align the data in the center. Click OK, and that's it. So now I can see, and the fact that we are using a critical path indicator for our schedule does not mean that we do not have to use the percent of finish variance. Actually, I like to use it because even though this is not affecting my schedule at all, it's not causing any harm to my schedule, this particular task in here. I can see that even if this task does not affect my entire schedule, it has a great amount of variance. So 40% of variance is a pretty high number. So it's a I usually myself personally like to use the percent of variance information combined with my critical path indicator in Microsoft project. And as soon as we start doing this kind of changes, and as soon as we start doing modifications to our schedule, we are going to see that we can have a combination of different information inside our schedule. It's good, and it's going to be just fine. For example, I would just give some change something in here. So let's say that instead of using 15 days to the project server deployment, or for configuration acceptance tests, for example, if I change here for 2 days, it's going to be this task in the critical path. This task is going to be red, but the other tasks are going to be on place again. If I change here for 4 days, it's going to be in the critical path, and then I will have all the information that I want with the percent of finish variance to my schedule, and also the critical path here showing what's going on. And I think this is a good approach that we can use for our schedules to our projects in order to have a better understanding of what's going on, right? So I will move back here to my slides. And this is the criteria that I used. This is the formula that I used for this critical path indicator in Microsoft project. As you can see, this is another way that I created, in which I said if it's critical and if it's not critical. And I said, as I said, you can use this or you cannot use this. It's going to work in the same way. Just to make sure that we do have all of our information working. If I do not have any baseline at all to my schedule, and if I clear my baseline, it's going to show me that I do not have a baseline. A little tip is when you create a custom indicator, as this custom indicator in Microsoft project is when you choose to use custom fields that are based on text. As soon as you have typed the text inside the formula and have converted the text for indicators, as soon as you pass through your mouse over here, you are going to see that we have the result. So I will just undo what I did. You do not have how to change, right? So I will set a baseline again, and I will say this task is going to take not 5 but 6 days, and this task is not going to take 15 days but it's going to take 13 days. And as soon as you pass here your mouse through the indicator, you are going to see the text that you have previously inserted inside the tasks. So if I say that this one here is going to take 3 days or 5 days, it's going to show me everything that I want to. So let's just go back here to my presentation. And now, Prasanna, I would like to say that we are open to our session on questions and answers. I would like first to say to everyone who have joined this presentation, first, sorry for the noise. As I said, this is commonly a quiet place, but for some reason today something is happening in here. And I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation. And I would like to say a big thank you for all of you who could make it, who were able to join this presentation. So Prasanna, I will open to you, so then we can start with the questions and answers.
All right. Thanks, Rafael. Thanks to you. I think it was a great session. So let me see if there are any questions. I did not see any comments so far. Yeah, there are people just listening to you, maybe digesting the information you're giving out. Would we make this slide deck available? That's a question nobody has asked, but they will.
Oh yes, of course I will. I
So
just have to make it available, but definitely this slide deck is going to be available, and also the formula itself. People can just get in contact with me, and then I can share with them. And as I said, also I blogged this in Sensei's blog, so people can just go there, and they will have all the criterias and all this blogged out.
very good. And if you also can give me a copy, we can put it in under session resources. That
Oh
way,
yes, of course I will definitely.
when people come, if first time visitors come in, they will know to look for here. So,
Mhm.
all right, great. Let's give a couple of minutes to see if anybody has any questions. Otherwise,
Mhm.
we can end the session.
Okay, no problem. I'll be here.
All right. Okay, so I see somebody trying to ask a question. So, okay, so Alex Ashbell is asking, can you share the first formula to create the percentage variance?
All right. Let me go back here, Prasanna, to my project. I will
Sure.
show this in project, but also if Alex wants to make contact with me, I will be more than happy to give him this formula. But basically, Alex, if we go here to custom fields and this percent of variance formula, I will show you our.
Rafael, you might need to hold on to let this broadcast catch up.
Mhm.
So maybe go a little bit slow.
Okay.
Yep, now we can see your project screen.
Yeah. So basically, as I said, the first thing that I do when I am creating a new formula, a new indicator, or a new custom field in project, I first make sure that we do have a baseline. So in order to do it, I compare the baseline finish field with the expression NA, because basically Microsoft project uh, stores in the baseline finish date, and also in the start finish, is the baseline start finish NA, the NA expression when we do not have any baseline at all. So the first thing that we have to make sure if we do have a baseline. And I am also taking care here if the task is a milestone. And the reason for that is because when a task is actually a milestone, the duration of this task in the 99% of the cases is going to be zero, right? So I cannot divide any number by zero. So if my task is a milestone, or if my task does not have any baseline at all, I do not have to do any calculation. And that's the reason I'm saying if my task is a milestone, or if my baseline finish date is equals to MA, then show zero. If not, if I have a baseline and if my task is not a milestone, so Microsoft projects can go and do the calculation, dividing the finish variance by the baseline duration and multiplying this by 100. So then I have a whole number, and this is going to show me how much my task is has how how big is my variance in terms of percentage comparing with what was originally planned. So that's the reason I use this formula to show the percentage of finished variance.
Very, very nice. So, and Alex also provided his email ID. So, Rafael, if you can send it to him.
Oh, no problem. I will just go to the comments on the session,
Yep.
and I will take Alex's email and I will send this presentation for him with the two custom fields that we created, the critical path one and also the finish variance one.
All right. Fantastic. Okay. Let's see. All right. I do not see any more questions.
Uh-huh.
So, Rafael, I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you very much for an awesome presentation, and taking the time out to present at this conference.
Thank you, Prasanna. Thank you for everyone who were able to make it today. As I said, I would like to emphasize one more time. I chose going to a quiet place, and for some reason today it's a big, crazy day here in São Paulo. I'm
As
sorry
as
for the noise.
as long as you're safe, that was okay,
Yeah,
Alex.
and but I hope that everyone who were able to join the presentation has enjoyed, and thank you for this opportunity.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Please do not forget to fill out a session evaluation. There's a blue button right beside the video that you can click on and give provide session feedback. All right. With that, we're signing off. Thank you.
Thanks.